Google Flow just turned into a much bigger creative hub. Now, whether all of those tools are actually useful is exactly what I want to show you in this tutorial, with a special focus on the image section. And the coolest part? You can even create your own features called My Tools. Very quickly, for anyone who has not used Google Labs yet, just type labs.google into your browser, log in with your Google account, and start Google Flow via Try It Now. After that, click New Project at the bottom to get started. If you already work with Google Flow a lot, you probably notice the changes right away, especially in the navigation on the left. That is where we also find the tools. Right at the top in the middle, we have Discover, basically the place where all the existing features live. Next to it, there is My Tools. With this option, you can build your own features. The catch is, you need a paid subscription for that. I will show you 2 examples at the end, so you can decide for yourself whether it is worth the money. But for now, let us jump back to the standard tools via Discover. If we scroll down here, we find a whole bunch of ways to tweak your images and videos with Google Flow. 8 tools for AI images and editing, and 10 for videos, mostly video effects. If we scroll even further, there are also tools for prompting and experimental stuff. But in this tutorial, we will only look at the image features, because otherwise this thing would get completely out of hand. Video is coming in the next tutorial. We start nice and simple. The tool name already gives it away, with Simple Sketch. To launch any of these tools, just click the matching tile. After that, Google Flow takes us straight into the actual interface. In the top left, you see a field that basically says Draw Here. Underneath, you get the different tools: Select, Draw, Text, and so on. Next to that, there is the color picker, the brush size, undo and redo, the option to upload an image, or to throw the whole thing straight into the trash if it went sideways. It definitely makes sense to describe your image with a prompt, especially if your image is more of a rough sketch like mine here. If you want to add more instructions, use the drop-down under Additional Instructions. On the right side, you can also choose which image model you want to use, Fast or Pro. To start the image generation with this small arrow, you need to have either drawn or uploaded at least something. In my case, the prompt was a cat, a man, and a house. And for the additional instructions, I used a style description. And since we are here, quick little side trip. This is how you can turn images like this into a style description. This one is a photo from my last trip to Australia. Somewhere out in the outback, there was this old rusty car covered with traces from all the travellers who had passed by. And I thought, okay, that is actually a pretty cool style. So just take an image like that, upload it to ChatGPT, and ask it to describe the style in as much detail as possible. That gives you the extra prompt you can then use under additional instructions. When I click the arrow now, I get this result, with all the little details from my original reference: the colours, the type style, the overall worn-out, rough look and feel. I also did a direct comparison because I wanted to know whether this tool can actually do more than just regular image generation with Nano Banana Pro or Nano Banana 2. And this was the result from several tests with Nano Banana 2. You can see pretty clearly that Simple Sketch adds another layer of complexity on top. My take: is this tool useful? Absolutely. Especially when you just want to quickly scribble something down to define a pose, a framing, or a few important details as a starting point. We go back to the overview and pick the second tile. And by the way, the number and order of these tiles will probably keep changing over time. This one launches Scene Explorer. When it opens, you are basically staring at a black screen first. The key thing here is, do not overthink it. Keep it super simple. The whole point at the start is just to generate a base location, a house, an object, a landscape, whatever. Google Flow suggests 1980s suburbs here. I tested it with 1980s Woodland Hotel. Just type that short prompt into the top left and click the little arrow. Google Flow then gives you several options. You get the basic shots, from simple to wide shot to nighttime. And then you also get extra ideas that the AI pulls out of the topic, 1980s Woodland Hotel. If you want more variations, just hit More Ideas. If I pick wide shot, I get my base image. If I go with the custom suggestions, the AI generates things like this fireplace scene in the style of a 1980s Woodland Hotel, or a matching television, the room interior, a sauna, Although at that point, I do kind of want to ask the AI if an open fire in a closed room is really the smartest life choice. Or I get a green lobby. And honestly, you could keep pushing this forever. This tool kind of has style, location, and time reference baked right into it. If you want to start with one base image and then explore different ideas in the same overall look and feel, there is quite a lot here. What you cannot do in the basic version is upload images as references, but what you can do, and this goes for all tools by the way, is adapt them to your own needs. Just click Remix tool at the top center, then hit Edit. After that, type something like "every image must be green" into the prompt bar on the bottom right. The AI will then build a kind of Scene Explorer 2.0 and save that new version into your My Tools area so you can reuse it later. I tried this with 3 examples. Here, the base image, which was a 1980s desert hotel, then the pool, and then the CRT television. And if we take a closer look at the prompt behind this image, you can actually see what happened. My input, "every image must be green," got turned by the AI into a more standardized edition. Green monochromatic style, forest and emerald tones, lush green lighting. Tool number 3 is called Mockup. Up in the top left, you can upload an image, and underneath that, you can pick from a few presets. Just click one of the fields and the AI gets to work right away. This example here shows the result for the poster preset, but it really gets interesting once you start defining custom mockups. Just click the matching field, and then you can type in whatever you want. Here we see the result for school desk surface, or abandoned gas station sign, or a white cup on a brown wooden table, shallow depth of field, or a fully wrapped delivery van transporter, or even a large public propaganda billboard in Pyongyang in the 1980s. Back in the interface, down at the bottom, you can also decide which image AI model you want to use. And on the right below the image, you get the options Rerun, Save to Gallery, Delete, plus a drop-down where you can inspect the prompt behind the result. This is a seriously impressive tool when it comes to dropping an existing image into a completely different environment. What is interesting is that the AI also understands material changes really well. You can see that especially with the hat preset. Even pretty complex visuals get turned into believable embroidery, which is kind of wild. I did find a few limits though. Try putting a motif onto a fully photorealistic flag with all its folds and fabric behavior. In my tests, that started to drift pretty close to a sterile 3D render look, even though I explicitly told it not to. The next tool is the image editor. In the top right, we find the basic settings for resolution and aspect ratio, plus the choice of which AI image model we want to use. In the top left, we have the basic segments, add image and add text layer. So you load in a base image and then add more elements using cutout PNG files or text. The neat part is this. On the left, you can see the layer hierarchy. At the bottom, there is the base image, and above it, 2 text layers. If you move your mouse over these segments, little arrows appear, and those let you change the order of the layers. And of course, whatever sits at the front covers whatever sits behind it. You can also delete individual layers again by clicking the trash icon. If you add a text layer, you can adjust the text, the font, and a bunch of other settings on the right. If you click on the image layer, you can change things like opacity, contrast, blur, and similar effects. Directly underneath your image, there are 5 more features. Refine basically means that the image gets another pass for light and color optimization. InPaint lets you mark specific areas you want to change. For that to work, you first need to click the matching image layer on the left. With Outpaint, you can define by prompt what should happen around your image. That is especially useful when the image is smaller than the editing area you are working in. Cutout removes objects from the background, but not always perfectly. With Crop, you can trim images and prepare them for further editing. Down on the left, there are also Undo and Redo buttons, just in case you want to step back one or several moves. It is also important to understand how the image editor thinks. Save to Gallery is not what creates the proper final image. The actual image is created through the actions I just explained. In other words, use InPaint, Refine, or Outpaint. Let Google Flow create a new layer as a new full image by pressing Enter, and then download that result through Save to Gallery. Only then does the finished image move into the Images area and become available for download. I tested a few examples here. This was the base image. With InPaint and Refine, using the right prompt, North Korea suddenly becomes a scene in the United States, the Gobi Desert, or snowy Tibet. This is basically an AI-connected image editor for basic editing moves, but it is not 100% stable. The clever AI part makes up for the fairly rough editing tools quite a bit. It plays in the same league as the Midjourney editor and other online tools, but if you want to edit professionally, with pixel-perfect placement of every element, you are still better off using Adobe Photoshop or Affinity Photo. The next tool is called Shot Explorer. And again, the interface is pretty straightforward. You upload an image in the top left, then pick from different options. That is basically it. Where it gets interesting again is when you click Remix tool at the top and define your own views. That way, you do not have to prompt the same thing from scratch every single time. For my test, I used the last image from the image editor and tried out a few different views: overhead aerial view, side profile view, and pan to the left. This is a really useful tool when you want to open up the view or change the perspective, all with one click, without writing long prompts. As a professional designer, that is honestly a pretty great helper. The next tool is called Mask Magic. The first thing you notice is that the interface looks a bit different, more stripped down, a little more bare bones. But even so, the feature delivers really solid results. Right in the middle, it tells you in a few short words what to do. First step, pick an image. So I click Open Gallery and upload one. For this, I use the image from Shot Explorer. Next, we have to choose between Smart and Brush. Smart basically means you move your cursor over the image, and the AI highlights similar areas for you. Or you pick Brush, including brush size, and then you can manually paint over the areas you want to change, kind of like InPaint. If you want to reset the whole thing, just click Clear Mask on the right, and all the previous selections are gone. For this test, let us just use Smart, and hover over this stone sculpture. Once the auto selection looks good, we click and then type a prompt into the white field. I used Campfire. And this here is the result. As you can see, the AI interprets things pretty generously. The stone sculpture is still there, even though I had marked it, but now there is also a campfire added in, complete with matching light effects. This is a really strong tool when it comes to refining images, especially if you do not need a super exact one-to-one modification, but are more okay with a freer, realistic interpretation. Converge, in Midjourney terms, you would probably call this retexture. The tool lets you take an existing image and push it into a different look and feel. So, for example, turning day into night, or desert into water. To understand how this tool works, we kind of have to take one step back. First, the AI needs an input, either a sketch or an uploaded image. Then, the first thing it does is basically decode that image. It tries to reduce it into a simple black and white vector-like form. Only once that simplified version exists can you move on to the next step. Up in the top right, you choose the model, type in your prompt, and underneath that you pick the style and aspect ratio. After that, you just hit render. The results here show pretty clearly how the whole thing works. First, the original image, then the simplified form, and then the final version. Same idea again with the sign on the plateau, or the sign underwater. You can even tell the AI in the prompt to remove things. In this example, I told it to remove the people and animals. This tool is interesting, but more like an in-between step. Some of the results lean a bit too much into that 3D render vibe, or just feel kind of random. But if you take the final Converge image and feed it into ChatGPT to get a more precise prompt in the style you actually want, then it can definitely work. The Grid Architect is honestly a lot of fun, because this tool creates exactly the kind of thing so many people need for video AI workflows: an X-grid layout with multiple scenes. First, we get this start screen with the line Start Architecting. So yeah, let us do exactly that. The interface is very user-friendly. On the left, you have all the settings, and on the right, you get the output in the grid layout you picked. First, you can once again choose the model and the aspect ratio. Underneath that, there is the Visual Logic section with 4 preset styles plus a custom option, and then the grid selection itself. A landscape foregrid, a 9-grid, a portrait foregrid, or a custom layout with up to 25 shots. If you want to give the AI extra guidance on how the shots are supposed to work together as a series, you can choose between Unified Theme, Sequence, or Prompt Wizard. Each option comes with its own input fields, and the more shots you select, the more detail you can pour into this. The easiest version is Unified Theme. There, you just enter your prompt and upload a reference image. That gives the AI a visual anchor. After that, click Generate. And the output is really solid. This was the reference image again, and when I choose a 4-grid, I get this. If I choose a 9-grid, I get this. The AI definitely thinks along with you. At first glance, the results are really strong, and you can upscale each image individually to 1000. But once you start looking closer, especially when the grid contains a larger number of shots, some details begin to drift. In the example with the Korean lettering, you can see that 3 of the images changed it completely. But apart from that, it is a pretty cool feature. And now, as promised, let us get to building your own tools. There are basically 2 ways to do this. Either you expand an existing tool, or you build a completely new one from scratch. For the first option, I simply opened Grid Architect and then clicked Remix Tool at the top in the middle. That adds an edit button up there. Once you click it, a chat window opens on the right, and inside that chat window, you can give editing instructions just through prompts, as you can see here. In my case, I wanted to add 2 more style references to the default drop-down menu. Let us compare that real quick. This here is the standard Grid Architect. You can see 4 options. Now back to my Grid Architect 2.0. Here we now have 6 options, and the images prove that it actually works. First up, my style quirky cartoon, with the examples shark, horse, and grandma, and then the second style, refined stylized miniature, again with the examples shark, horse, and grandma. So that was the upgraded version of an existing tool. Now let me build a completely standalone tool from scratch. What about a tool that transforms one of your own vacation photos, with features like snow, fog, dust storm, or even a yellow excavator? To do that, I go to my tools, click Create New, and then paste in my working instruction at the bottom. That gives me this interface, custom made for me, the so-called ambient changer. And the results are seriously great, because they do exactly what I need. This here is the original image from Litchfield National Park. Here the trashed version, and here the dust storm version. Same thing with a picture of a road train in Daily Waters. Here the trashed version, here the dust storm version, then rain, then fog, and finally one with a yellow excavator. And that is it for Google Flow Tools with a focus on the image side. In the next tutorial, I will move on to the video section. There are a few pretty interesting things there as well. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Your channel, AI. Now you know.